All right, welcome to another episode of Accounting Flow. Today, we're talking about all things scheduling workflow for tax prep. And we have the pleasure today of having Brenda Cannon with us, who has been mentioned on previous podcasts as somebody that you should look to as potentially being a good resource to help you plan out your tax preps. We'll dive into that and a couple other topics here today. Brenda, thank you for joining.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was on X today before this conversation, and I noticed that you posted about your gym family that you spent some time with this morning, about the Wordle of the day, maybe 2 days ago. Tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe some of your interests, then what you're doing professionally today.
So I haven't been at my gym for at least a month because my dad became ill and he passed away. And I have the best gym family. They just hugged me this morning and welcomed me back. But I
Mm,
like to start my day with exercise. I feel like it makes me a kinder person. And I just feel better after I exercise. And that's kind of why I got into this, decided to try to figure out how to schedule tax prep because I do have a lot of hobbies. I don't
yeah,
like giving them up 1/4 of the year every year. So,
yeah. And so that's an indication to me that you spend most of your time professionally on the tax side if you're busy the first quarter of the year. Tell us about what type of clients you serve, what type of services you offer, and a bit about your practice.
so I've had my business for 13 years and it's probably 25% businesses and 75% individual tax returns. There are most of our business clients now, we do their monthly accounting and tax planning and tax prep. We're trying to get like all new businesses pretty much, if we don't do their accounting, they're probably not a fit. We're kind of tired
Mm,
of the DIY accountants and cleanup. Yeah, and we have kind of shrunk on purpose. We we're short two CPAs since a year and a half ago, and we thought instead of trying to hire, maybe it's a good opportunity to kind of uh, clean up our clientele. So we let go of 276 clients before this tax season. And
wow.
actually, over the last 4 years, probably about 400 to 500 clients we've let go. So
Wow. And what was the driver for that? Was it more of a, hey, I want to reorient how I spend my time, or was it better aligning with the types of clients that you serve? What was the driver there?
it was more aligning with the kind of clients we serve. Since we were short two CPAs, we thought it's just a good opportunity instead of trying to continue to generate that income and hire. We just thought, well, our expenses are less. We'll just kind of let some clients go and get our business model closer to what we want it to be.
Yeah. And so are you closer today now that you've made that transition?
Definitely, yes. Like the clients I'm talking about, like the sloppy work papers, the unresponsive, the ones that complain about their fee. And I mean, some of them are super nice, but it's business. So
Mm,
we could tell a difference. Just a calmer office, smoother process when you have clients that kind of, when you have A+ clients.
yeah. And so how actually I'm very interested in this because it can be a really difficult exercise to go through a client base to understand who makes sense to keep if you want to streamline your practice a little bit, maybe if you have retention issues with the team. Like that's a really difficult exercise to go through, particularly if you're dealing with nice people that
It
just
is.
happen to be a little bit less organized on the business front. Did you put forth a methodology? Like how did you go through evaluating who to keep?
Well, it wasn't very, I don't know if there was any kind of a formula, but we just had a spreadsheet that we would add to it. Anyone, not just the tax preparers, the admin could add to it also, and just kind of a reason why. And then we went over it. again, and there were some like, okay, we'll keep them and see how that works out.
Yeah.
But it was a job this last time, 276 clients, and we referred them out to two different EAs. So they
Mm,
had a place to go if they
good.
chose to use the other accountants. They're very qualified, very knowledgeable, but splitting them out, communicating with them, dealing with phone calls, upset people, there weren't a ton of that, but there was some of that. And so
Yeah.
that was kind of a job, but we got through it.
Yeah, we are recording today around Christmas time. Christmas is next week, and you kind of sound a little bit like Mrs. Claus keeping a naughty and a nice list.
Maybe, yeah, kind of, yeah.
But I think what you're saying is really important relative to client success and your team success. Of are you capturing the information that makes your team's life easier or more difficult, and if so, what are you doing about that? And so I think it's a really good practice to take note of those things. I suspect you're still doing that today, even after the last client change.
We are, and we recently let go of 4 or 5 clients, and it's still hard, but it does
Yeah.
get easier after you've done it a while.
That's right. That's right. So I want to lean a little bit more into the tax prep scheduling side of things, because I know you've talked a lot about this. You have some pieces of software that you use to help with this. Let's go back to before you had this piece of software. How were you managing information collection, document management? How were you doing that? And then kind of what did that lead you all to internally?
Right. So I got the idea from Jason Statt's podcast, and he had learned it. He got the idea from Jacob Oberlander. Um, and so, first of all, it was convincing our team I mean, it's just like you tend to do things always the same way. And the idea of, it's just hard for people to think this can really happen. You can really do this. So, what we did the first couple of years, we used the Calendly app, and we communicated a lot with our clients. Like at our year end letter, we just kind of added a paragraph. I don't know who reads the year end letter, but we added a paragraph that says we're going to do something different this next tax season. We're going to send you a calendar. We're going to ask you to pick a date to give us 100% of your tax documents. So you need to consider what date would be appropriate. Then we sent another email, like, I don't know, a week or two later, specifically talking about the scheduling thing. And we told them exactly the day and time we will send the calendar out. And then when we sent the calendar out, again, we said, you need to think about when you receive all of your tax documents, because you're by your date, you need to have 100% of your tax documents. And if you don't, you'll have to pick a different date. And by
Mm,
that time, many of the dates will have been picked. So you'll be further
yeah.
out in the year. And our clients were pretty good about picking dates based on when they receive all their tax documents. And so, like if a client, for some reason, the K-1 was later
Hmm.
than usual, we worked with them. It's not just black and white. We made a few adjustments here and there, but it worked so well. And I think one of the most important things we did in 2023 that we should have done in 2024, and we're going to do it again in 2025, the day after the client gave us their tax documents or uploaded their tax documents, we had one of our employees go through the tax documents that they uploaded or dropped off, compare to the prior year tax
Mm,
documents. Then she would email a list to the tax preparers, and then we would tell her, which items she needed to ask the client about. Then she would send an email to the client saying something like, these tax documents you had last year, you don't have this year. or if they're missing, please get them to us as soon as possible to keep your date on the calendar.
Hmm.
And that kind of sense of urgency worked really well. And we told our clients, we'll have your tax return prepared 3 weeks later by the end of the week from the date you picked. So if you picked a Tuesday, it would be 3 weeks later that Friday. So that way we wouldn't have like deadlines for ourselves each day of the week. We kind of had
Mhm.
weekly deadlines for ourselves. So by going through those tax documents the day after, by the time we got to the tax return, in most cases we had everything. I mean, we still had questions to ask,
Sure.
but the one I always think of that people tend to forget are the HSA documents. And so things like that was taken care of before we got to the tax return to prepare
Mhm.
it. And that's a huge time suck. Like, you get a tax return and you have something missing, so you email your client, so you put that down, and then you get another tax return and you've got something missing, so you email that client, you put it down, then you get up another tax return. Well, then the first client emails you back, so then you put that down and you pick that up, and yeah, it's just a waste of time.
So if you're just joining us, Brenda just gave her playbook on how to collect information from clients really effectively before deadlines. Now, you mentioned a lot of challenges that lie therein in terms of having to establish a lot of clarity with clients on deadlines and expectations of them, and
Mhm.
communicating those new expectations to them that hadn't been a part of the rhythm in the past. Did you have any pushback, or did you have any resistance at first?
We did. Yes, we did. Um, there's a number of people are phobic about extensions, and so now the way we do tax, like, we don't have a tax season anymore. We're working normal hours. We take the number of clients we have and the number of days we have between February, and really our calendar ends August 20th. So we just kind of spread it out evenly.
Hmm.
And so about 75% of our clients are extended now. And they were spoiled before. We had a March 15th deadline, and everybody get that in their head, March 15th. Everybody had the same deadline. And in 2019, 105 of our clients gave us their tax documents on that one day, in addition to the before that date. Now, at that time, we had another partner, and we had close to 1,500 clients, but still, that's a lot for our admin to process, to get those projects set up. It's overwhelming. I've mentioned this a few times when talking about this. Easter is almost always before tax day. Like, every 10 years, it's after tax day, but you're worn out by then. We would be at lunch with family, and I couldn't even enjoy myself because I knew there was a pile of tax returns sitting there, people
Yeah.
waiting. Now we just have it's just spread out. So we have a manageable amount of tax returns to prepare each week. But yes, we had pushback mainly because of extensions. And, some of those clients, I called them, the clients that I'd had for a long time, I called them and we talked about it, and they were fine. And we've also strongly encouraged tax projections. If you make your estimated tax payments and your income hasn't changed, you're fine. If you've had additional income, then let us do a tax projection, because chances are you're going to get extended. And it's a good idea to do a tax projection anyway to avoid failure to make estimated tax payment penalties. Just
Mhm.
because a tax return is filed by April 15th doesn't mean there's not a penalty. It just means there's not a late filing penalty. So we've had to educate our clients about extensions. And, so when we started this, we had around 750 clients, I think. We lost about 10% of our
Okay.
clients. We also had a big fee increase.
Hmm.
So I think it was partially because of the fee increase, partially because of the scheduling thing. Maybe 5 people said out loud, "I don't like this scheduling thing," and they left, which is fine. It opens up room for a client who will be okay with it.
So you've been describing a workflow that many tax firms wish they had, and they still live in this perpetual busy season, 80-hour weeks, 100-hour weeks. Even though there is adequate software to help with these problems, there are countless communities like Realize and others who are sharing methodologies on how to just improve your life.
Mhm.
And yet, there is some degree of resistance towards changing. What do you think causes this resistance in accountants of changing their process or adopting new technology?
Yeah. I think it's mainly because they're afraid that clients won't like the change. They're I didn't realize that in a way we were kind of letting our clients run our firm because we were scared to rock the boat, you know? And I get that. And I think maybe the reason we made the change was because I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired. And it's not healthy. Your your chance of stroke, if you work more than 55 hours a week, your chance of stroke goes up by 35%. Chance of heart disease goes up by 17%. It's
Hmm.
just not worth it. And so clients don't know what they don't know. I don't know that they realized how we give up. Many of us have give up 7 days a week, 1/4 of the year, every year, and long days. And they don't, they don't realize that. So and we've spoiled them. They're so used to us just killing ourselves
Hmm.
to get the tax returns prepared. So it's kind of a learning curve. It's an adjustment. And I will tell you, our clients, like, they are now, so we sent an email out last Friday and we said we're sending the calendar out on Wednesday, December 18th at noon. And they are setting alarms on their phones because, like, the clients who don't want to file an extension, they are going to be like on it. So, and last year, or this last year, so the first year I don't have any stats, but this last time we sent the calendar out, within 90 minutes, 110 clients had already picked a spot on the calendar.
Wow.
And this year, so the last 2 years, I don't know why we sent the calendar out on January 31st. That's like a busy day. So this year we're sending the calendar out in December. So my thought was, if a client gets a date that will require them to file an extension, there's still time for us to do a tax projection if they haven't asked us to. Um, but what we're going to do this year, because we really want to know how many clients are using us, how many, we want to know how many returns we have. We want to know our capacity. So
Yeah.
we're going to send the calendar out tomorrow. We'll send a couple of reminders, and then sometime in early January, for clients who have not picked a spot on the calendar, we will send them an email that says, "You haven't picked a spot on the calendar. We are changing your account to inactive. We appreciate having, it'd be a nice email, but we're letting them know that if you don't, you got to pick a spot."
Wow. So
And
so
we
you,
did send that email out last August or July, early August, because we still had maybe 20 clients who hadn't picked a spot on the calendar.
yeah.
And we sent that email out, and like 7 clients immediately emailed us or called us. So, no, wait, they had just ignored that calendar. And we said, well, you need to pick a spot because the dates end on August 20th. There's only so many spots a day that you can pick.
Yeah.
So there's still it's a learning curve.
Yeah. So you're holding the line on saying if you don't pick a spot, we are terminating the contract effectively. You need to find a new preparer. Is that right?
Well, they can. I mean, I'm sure some of them will contact us and say, "Wait, no, we,"
Sure.
and then that's fine. Pick a spot on the calendar. It's just we want them to pick a spot early in the year, like in December, for the next year. So we have our workload all planned out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that so much. That's so cool. You just don't see many accountants sticking up for themselves that. It's
Well,
crazy.
I know. And I don't know. I think that some accountants, they feel like they can't do this with their clients.
Hmm.
And they can. I mean, every firm, their clients are different. And I've been doing several Zoom sessions about this scheduling thing for just people who want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And one lady, well, actually, she goes to my tax lunch here in Edmond, and she said that she didn't know how she could do it because she spends like the first 2 weeks of April doing calculating tax extensions or payments, payments with extensions. We try to do tax projections before the end of the year. But in her situation, many of these clients, they don't know their taxable income. They're partners in partnerships and they just don't know that
Yeah.
taxable income, and they'll get like a draft K1 in early April. Well, then you would block out so much time. You'd set up your calendar so that, like, if you did it the way we did it 3 weeks prior, there would be no spaces available on the calendar. So that 3 week when you get to that time, you don't have tax returns to do. You're scheduling a time to calculate payments with extension. So it's like scheduling everything you do. Kind of, we're trying to not have surprises and know what our workload is every week. So then if you have done all your tax returns by Friday, so we have our little mini goals, like 3 weeks later, by that Friday we have to have these tax returns done. If they're done, then you get to take the weekend off, like,
Yeah.
and not feel guilty because you are caught up.
Yeah. That
So
that it it's one of those things that when you look at it conceptually, it's a very simple concept.
it is. It's so
Yet,
simple.
I would put you on the forefront of innovation and maybe application of how to manage really quality tax practice in our field today. And so when I look at you, I'm like, okay, well that's progressive in a lot of ways. And do you feel like that as well?
Well, I mean, there are a couple of other. I know there are a few other people doing it on tax
Sure.
Twitter. Yeah, it's new. And I'm in Oklahoma, and I did a lunch and learn last week with the OSCPA, and I did have some kind of deer in the headlights looks, but I also had some really interested in looks. I think it's we are planting a seed right now. It's a new idea. It's like you have to hear it a few times
Yeah.
until it soaks in. And then you think, how am I going to implement that? That's so overwhelming. But
Yeah.
it's not. It's not that overwhelming. I mean, now we have a system down, and the first year it might not work perfectly, but you kind of tweak it each year. And, so when we calculated how many spots on the calendar, we added a ton of cushion because you don't remember the things that happen during the year that you don't expect. Like somebody gets sick, somebody loses a loved one.
Mhm.
Your kids get sick. There's bad weather, all kinds of things. And so like the first year, we thought we could easily, between four preparers, get 12 returns done a day. We dropped it down to 8, and then Friday, nothing. So Fridays were for accounting or responding to a letter from the IRS or non-tax things. And then we dropped it down in March to 6 spots a day. And then 3 weeks prior to April 15th, no spots available. So then when we get to April 15th, if we are behind at all, we can get caught up, make sure
Mhm.
extensions are all filed. Um, and this last year, we knew we would be out of 10. So now we just have 2 preparers. We'll have one this next year on contract, but
Yeah.
this last tax, I don't like to use the word tax season. We don't use the word anymore. But this last year, it was me and my husband partner doing tax returns. So we knew we were going to be in Chicago for the tax retreat in July. So
Mhm.
3 weeks prior, no spots available on the calendar. And then we knew we were going on vacation the end of August. 3 weeks prior, no spots available on the calendar. So that when we come back to work, we're not playing catch up. And it's so simple. Like you don't like everything you do, you schedule.
Yeah. It's just so caring for yourself and for the team, and you don't often see leaders look at their team's capacity utilization in that same way, so as to prevent that one massive influx of work. I think that's a really cool and intentional way to think about this scheduling. Like that is super cool.
Well, and I think that's why we have a pipeline problem because nobody, why would you, you're not making $1 million. Why would you want to work those kinds of hours? So that's another, I think, another benefit. I think it would make recruiting
Yeah.
easier because you can still have quality of life and do taxes.
Mhm. I completely agree with you, and we need more folks that are beating this drum in our educational circles at universities, postgraduate, at large firms, at conferences. I think we need more of that message, and so I hope to see you sharing more of that message here over the next year. And I know you participate in Realize
Yes.
and are very active in your state society. Where are places that people could go to learn more about this concept? Are there any other communities you would recommend? I know you're very active in tax Twitter. What are your thoughts on that side?
I mean, so I don't know. I did like a session in the collaboration room. I'm in way too many communities.
It's not a bad thing.
So, and I just I think I maybe on tax Twitter. So at the tax retreat last year, me and Ann Irons, we talked about this. She
Hmm.
does the same thing. She does it a little bit differently. She sets the dates for her clients because, and I get that makes sense. She knows what clients should be extended, what clients shouldn't. We just have a different approach, but I think they're both, it just depends on your firm.
Sure.
Um, we wanted our clients to have a little control, so that's why we let our clients pick dates, but I see both sides of that. So after that, I think I maybe just said something on tax Twitter. If you want to learn more, contact me. And I started setting up Zoom sessions, and about 140 people have contacted me. And
Wow.
I just kind I sent everyone a form to see what days and times work best, and I just kind of broke them down into groups of 10 to 15 and did Zoom sessions just to talk about it. So I think there are a number of firm owners who are thinking about doing this. They're, they just haven't taken that big step.
Mhm.
And, it's not a bad idea to, like, in 2025, just start communicating with your clients and say, in 2026, this is happening.
Yeah.
So, just kind of, I think clients need to hear it a few times to realize, first of all, you're serious, and understand it. Some clients do not read more than the first sentence. They just peruse. They just don't
Totally.
read thoroughly. So yeah. But so for selfish reasons, if other firms would do this, then clients would think this is a normal process. So when they
Right.
go to a firm, they're used to it.
Yeah.
That's my hope.
Yeah, and so would you recommend folks to jump on tax Twitter? I know it's very noisy, but tax Twitter, any other communities you think are really helpful in this process for helping firm owners kind of move this direction?
I mean, I think all the communities are talking about this. I know Logan Graff, he has his community called Counter, and he is going to do the scheduling thing. So he'll probably be talking about it in his community and how it's going for him. Um, I think, there's I'm, like I said, I'm in too many communities, but I can't leave any of them because they're all just so good. And
Yeah.
you can always learn. about new software, or I don't know. They're just great support groups.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, I know there's Logan's New Community Counter, Realize, Automation Town, Future Firm, Roundtable Labs, the user groups of various softwares, whether it's Financial Sense or
Mhm.
um, Ignition. There's so many avenues to learn and
Yeah.
to implement things like this. Well, I'm super grateful that we had a chance here to dive in on your journey on that side. I think it's super helpful for folks to hear that message. And are you continuing to do your Zoom sessions?
I've kind of, I think I'm about caught up, but I might just make some posts on tax Twitter maybe after April for if people want to talk about it again. Yeah.
Okay. So if you're on X and part of the tax Twitter community, look up. I believe is it B Sue Cannon?
Yeah. Yes.
B Sue Cannon or Brenda CPA on X. And are you also on LinkedIn? Is that a good place to find you as well?
I'm on LinkedIn. I don't get on there very much, but I try to. I don't, yeah, I don't know. I get on there every now and then, and I'm now on the Blue Sky.
Oh,
It's
okay.
like Twitter. So I'm in that group too. Yeah.
Okay. So if you're listening and you have questions around scheduling tax work, you can find Brenda on X, maybe LinkedIn, depending on the week, but Blue Sky as well. Brenda, I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for spending time here on Accounting Flow.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah.